The true time frames to wait after changing different esters of testosterone or testosterone cream go like this. This is the minimum effective time that you can change your protocol again after previously changing it and then monitoring whether or not this recent change was good for you. With testosterone cypionate, even though the general consensus is wait 6 to 8 weeks on it, at week 4 or 5, you should be able to tell which direction you're trending in. You know, especially if you've increased the dose at week 4 or 5 and you notice that erections are worse, it clearly is telling you that estradiol has come up, which it would if you increase your dose of cypionate. 100%, it's going to increase the estradiol. So that's probably the cause there, and you're probably not on a sustainable protocol at that point, right? Because DHT is scaling up, estrogen is scaling up too, but if erections are worse, it's pretty clear that that ratio is not going to balance out at some eventual point, magically somehow. How would it, right? You know, people tend to think, oh, like, you know, the DHT being really high or high enough will counterbalance estrogen, or I can tolerate more estrogen with high DHT. I've run those experiments, and not just on me. Loads of scrotal cream, loads of DHT. Estrogen's still too high, causing erectile dysfunction, right? So at that point, 4 to 5 weeks, you could probably make a change. Now, if you reduce a dose of cypionate, you know, say you were on 150 and you made a reduction down to 130, and at week 3, you had like some progress, like erections started to get better, and then they just reverted to being worse again, that's a situation in which you shouldn't change anything. And you should wait at least another 3 weeks to give it a full 6 weeks. Yeah, because then there's all kinds of dynamics happening. There's the reduction in estradiol, there's the reduction in DHT. The reduction in estrogen is good in this case. The reduction in DHT, maybe not the best thing, but probably will balance out once the ratios fall in place. Remember, estrogen lowering has somewhat of a lag compared to androgens. Like, estrogen will leave your body slower than androgens when you're reducing your dose. So in that case, you would want to wait, dude, at least 5 weeks. Give that time. Then go look at the bloods again, assess your symptoms at 5 weeks. Because if you change something then, meanwhile you were actually heading toward balancing out and being in the greatest place you've ever been on TRT, or at least a lot closer to being dialed in, well, then you definitely would mess that up by changing your dose too fast. Yeah, by changing things too quickly. And that's just not something that you want to do. Now, regarding test prop, let's talk about testosterone propionate. Now, this is a little different. In any case, after about 2 weeks of a dose change, you should be able to go and get bloods on your peak and your trough and get an idea of the range you're in with DHT and estradiol throughout the effectoration window of the injection period. And within 2 weeks, you should be able to notice definitively what the protocol is doing to you. You know, if you increased it and within 2 weeks you've got ED, the estrogen milieu is definitely too high, and the DHT, though might be high, it's not going to really get much higher than that. You know, and like the DHT at the tissue level, it takes about 2 weeks to normalize for you to kind of get what you're getting from it. You know, with fast-acting stuff, you're looking at about a 2 week period. You change the dose. That 2 weeks is where things are going to level out to where they are. And if they're bad after 2 weeks, you're probably on the wrong protocol, is what I would say. After years of coaching and seeing this and running, you know, countless experiments myself, you're probably on a bad protocol. So, you know, in that regard, yeah, you probably want to change it if things aren't great after 2 weeks. But you should get bloods to back that up. Let's talk about cream. Same is true with test cream. I mean, cream onsets really quickly. It is troughing at like the 16 to 18 hour mark, and then it troughs pretty heavily down. So the next morning when you wake up, before you apply your transcranial cream, you're at the trough, man. I mean, levels are pretty low. So it's quick, it's fast acting. So really the same rule applies. Yeah, DHT does take about 2 weeks to either, you know, like cause you ED because you don't have enough of it at the tissue levels. If you had a lot of DHT, then you change, you reduce your dose, you have less DHT, You change to a forearm application instead of a scrotal application, and now you have less, noticeably less or definitively less DHT. So that's going to take time to like make erections weaker, about 2 weeks. Same is true as if you increase the dose or put more on the scrotum or just go on cream, about 2 weeks. The tissue level DHT will show itself and erections and stuff will be better. But like, yeah, I mean, regardless of what it is, it doesn't take more than 2 weeks for you to notice things. Now, should you go get bloods? Should you maybe give it an extra week, give it 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks? Yeah, to be safe, it is a good idea because there are intermittent hormone fluctuations that may make you think you're in the steady state of where you're going to now be on this protocol, but it's just intermittent and temporary. It's just a transient like side effect or transiently bad place that you're in right now. And that's going to balance out after a couple more weeks on the protocol. But generally speaking, with fast-acting stuff, you're going to know right away. Okay. The biggest mistakes you can make is on Cypionate or Enanthate is making changes too quickly. All right. At the 4-week mark, back it up with bloods. If you're trending in the wrong direction noticeably, and the bloods support that elevated estradiol, in rare cases, if you're going far too low, like you just drop from 150 to 70 milligrams a week, too low of everything, then yeah, it would be, you could make a change at that point. You make an intelligent change based on what you're seeing to balance that out. But otherwise, you should give it 5-6 weeks on Cypionate, right? If you're not quite sure, if it's just intermittent, transient changes and the blood is telling you things are trending in the right direction, you wait it out. With cream and prop, honestly, I mean, to be super safe, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but you're going to know after 2 weeks. You should go get bloods and see, though, okay? Major point I want to make is people will ruin their protocols by not waiting long enough to change things. And by thinking like, hey, this is the new steady state that I'm in right now, or this new protocol that I just started is like giving me some side effect. You actually have no idea until at least 4 weeks with Cypionate and at least a couple weeks with the long esters. Hope that makes sense. Boys, remember, all these distinctions, specifically how to dial in libido and erections on any ester, whether it's cream, Cypionate, Enanthate, prop, using hybrids, using DHT with your protocol, that is all in Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT. That is the newest, most popular, most comprehensive breakdown on how to dial in sexual function on any ester of testosterone. It's a downloadable digital guide. I want you to have it. If I had a playbook like this when I started TRT, forget it. I mean, it'd just be so much easier. And, people go from struggling to dial in and having sexual dysfunction to getting the playbook, executing, and then everything is resolved quickly, too. You'd be surprised. Get it at livecortex.com. It's down in the description of this video. Hire me for coaching if you need to, one-on-one for sexual dysfunction on TRT. That is what I do. Otherwise, take heed to the advice that I've given, and I'll talk to you boys in the next one. Have a great day.